We don't need to record this one. It's up to you, whatever.
Yeah, no,
Doesn't matter. We'll go ahead and call this meeting back to order. Our first order of business, Chantel.
Yes, Chantel Abu with Indigent Services. What we have is the subordination agreement that was approved on February 4th. The individual who was approved for the subordination agreement, the purchase of his home fell through due to the inspection. So we need to sign another subordination agreement allowing for him to purchase another home that has been approved through the inspection. So it's just a replacement of the subordination agreement that was approved on February 4th.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd move to authorize the chairman's signature on subordination agreement as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank
Passes
you.
unanimously. Thank you. All right. Now we're here to meet with Marsh Valley Canal District.
I couldn't figure out why this wasn't making sense, and I realized I was looking at the USDA section under the state of Missouri, and I had to go under the state of Idaho to make it make sense. I was like, wow, this.
I did the same thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Leave it right there.
let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Commissioner Moser.
Commissioner Tubby.
Mike Jaglowski, Bannock County Engineer.
John Hyde, Portland Marsh Valley Canal Company Manager.
Chad Brown with Franson Civil Engineers.
Christopher Hauser, Bannock County Comptroller.
Okay.
All right. We talked about this once before. Let's go ahead and reintroduce this, and then we'll have a discussion.
You want me to hit it?
Yeah, hit it.
We flipped the coin. I guess I lost.
You lost. It's a two-headed coin.
Yeah, it was rigged. So, like it stated, my name is Chad Brown with Franson Civil Engineers. We're a water resource engineering firm with 2 offices in Utah. Our main office is in American Fork. Second office is in Logan. We've actually had conversations with Portland Marsh Valley Canal Company for probably 10 years now, going back, actually predating myself working with Portland Marsh Valley. There was another engineer with our firm that had kind of started looking at this, but then a year and a half or so ago, we were made aware of this funding opportunity through the NRCS, this PL 566 funding, and so went back to John and his group and said, hey, there's a pretty good opportunity here with this funding. We ought to take a look at it. And so about the last year and a half, we've been looking at things, looking at canal losses, kind of sizing pipe, putting together cost estimates, and moving forward. Last month, we submitted to the NRCS Idaho. Bruce Sandoval is his name. He is the director and over this funding in the state of Idaho. Basically a request to look at piping the Portland Marsh Valley Canal, as well as addressing drainage and flooding issues along the canal and throughout the county, Downey, Aramo, Virginia, those areas. This funding will actually cover 100% of the flood components of the project. And so NRCS Idaho has moved 4 of these projects forward, requesting funding, federal funding, to do what's called a PIFR. And that has changed since the last time that we came and talked to you. The PIFR is what's called a preliminary investigation feasibility report. It's just one of the acronyms they use. They want to make sure that these are viable projects before they completely fund them, do too much. And so Idaho had about 16 of them. Bruce looked at them. This project was one that he felt was viable, should move forward, and so he has requested funding. Since we met with you, we actually had gone, NRCS had suggested go talk with the Portneuf Soil and Water Conservation District to see if they would sponsor the project. They're very much in favor of it. They are supporting the project, but we've ran into another hiccup and that is the requirement for eminent domain. The law states that the primary sponsor has to have eminent domain authority. As the Soil and Water Conservation District looked into their bylaws further and kind of dug into that, came back, said, we don't meet that requirement.
Nope.
So we're back here, asking the county to support and be the sponsor of this project.
So, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So you said the magical multiple letter, it should be a 4-letter adjective of eminent domain. That is something that you bring those 2 words up, and that just is an immediate negative connotation.
Yep.
So are you asking that the reason why you would have to have the agency with eminent domain is to exercise the ability to use eminent domain in this project?
If needed, yeah.
If needed.
The NRCS, for whatever reason, that is the law.
Do you see in this project that eminent domain would need to be exercised?
No.
No, at this point, we reviewed this actually a week ago in our regular Canal Board meeting. And if you look at where we're going to anticipate starting our pipe and running to the end of the system, 80% at least of that property is owned by actual shareholders of the canal. So they're going to benefit from the project.
And the 20% that's...
And that's, if you look at it though, it's a really small.
So does that 20% not have a prescriptive easement or right-of-way
And
that's already...
that's the other option. You just go in the canal alignment. The benefit of going outside the canal alignment is to shorten it up.
Yep.
Once it's piped, you can straighten it out. and save
I'll just tell everybody, the eminent domain, unless it's an emergency of life or something like that for me, I will not ever exercise that.
Yeah.
That just violates my personal opinion on private property.
Right.
You know, I mean, if it was something that was going to say, you know, because it's a life-threatening
Right.
thing, got it. But in this, you know, we want to be very, very
Yeah.
careful.
It's
Just for that.
It's a box that has to be checked by the NRCS.
Okay.
Yeah, but, we even went back to Bruce and said, if we got affidavits by all of the property owners, would you guys, and they're like, no, like,
It can't work.
it's very specific.
Yep.
The law says whoever is the sponsor has to have eminent domain authority.
Okay. And then the sponsor would have the authority to say whether eminent domain would be used or not.
Correct.
It's not that we're
It's not.
subordinating our
No.
authority to somebody else.
Right.
So before any eminent domain could ever be used, it would have to be this board right
Yes.
here would have to. Okay. That makes me feel better because, like I said, those are words that in our state,
Right.
you can have the best intentions, and once those words get brought out of the
Yeah.
box, it just shuts everybody down in the conversation.
Right.
And so we just want to make sure that that's that. The other thing for me would be the cost sharing mechanism. So
There is none for the county. It's 100% paid for by the NRCS.
okay,
And if the county incurs cost, they can invoice the project to recoup those costs.
so if our auditing office has costs because they have to go through and all that, they're
Right.
typical. We're doing some fire reduction grants. Some of them are at 10%, some of them are at 17% reduction, or in applied costs, administrative
So-
costs,
so
grant
af-
tracking.
yeah, After the last time we came, I specifically asked that question because that was the concern,
Uh-huh.
the audit and the cost. So I went to Bruce, specifically asked him. He said that is covered under this program.
Okay.
Those costs can be covered by and they would just be taken from
Yep.
the dollar amount of the grant.
Okay, this process, when we talked before, Bannock County didn't have the ability or the resource or the plan to do this. Christie?
So if we're going to be the granting entity, then our outside auditors were under the impression that we might have to be we may have a subrecipient situation.
Right. we talked
But if
about
we're
that.
the granting entity, then if we just contract with,
CCOG or one of those guys?
well, possibly, but if we could contract just with the engineering firm that would be doing the work,
Well, whoever would be,
whoever wins
I'm
the
assuming it's a
RFP or
bid.
RFQ.
That's a bid component to it.
Yeah, the work will be bid out,
Yeah.
but you guys are part of.
Request- it's
part
RFP.
administrator.
RFP.
Well, it's up to you guys, however you want to select the
Well-
engineering.
Well, it would have to be following state procurement guidelines, so it would be RFP then, because, yeah, it's a request for proposal for the project. I mean, the engineering group that's probably sitting at this table probably has a better opportunity than others, but others, it's always open, because you have to follow state law.
Right.
So we'd go through RFP process, and then that person would be selected.
So
The
that-
the engineering could do the grant, could actually do all of the monitoring.
And I think before we were thinking that Bannock County would get the money, would give it to Marsh Valley Canal Company, and that's where the subrecipient would come into. But if we ran the grant differently, we wouldn't have to have the subrecipient.
If we just run the grant,
play.
if we just run the grant, as we are the granting application, we're just gonna do it just like we did on any of our transportation alternative grantways, RV parks, all that stuff that we've received grants for. We just set the RFP. You have on your side, this is what you wanna have done. This is the RFP that's going forward. A proposal would come back, that would incur all costs of grant management application. Accounting would come to this office would make sure that everything was in line, and then we would probably have to file the final report.
And then you'd have to have a project manager.
Yeah,
to-
which,
on-
and the
in
project
Bannock
manager,
County's-
the project manager can actually be part of the engineering aspect, because they're gonna be the ones that are gonna be on site inspecting,
Right.
to make sure those, but then you'd have a grant manager that then, I would say that either, if we're not doing it ourselves, the contract that we just worked out with like CCOG and those guys, that would actually be the best one, because then we don't even have to, we just file the paperwork, that's it.
So couple questions, question and thought. Who would the selection committee be? Does the canal company have any say in the
They could have,
process?
we could,
In the city of Downey, they have already
yep.
put forth, hey, you know.
That would be
we-
the part of the discussion then, is you'd probably have in your thing, probably one of our engineers, probably a canal company representative, probably a representative from there. That would be part of the discussion, to put that board together. But yeah, you'd look at having a combined entity that would look at what you're doing, because you don't necessarily want a bunch of people that have no idea what's
Right.
going on up there.
And I guess that's one of the concerns that obviously, whatever they choose, but taking it out of their hands when so much effort has been put forward to do the project.
The problem is we run under state guidelines for
I-
procurement.
Right.
I mean, how much are we talking in total project cost?
Could be 20,
Well, the construction funding is 25 million with
Yeah, that's a-
engineering, environmental, you're probably closer to 28 million.
Yeah, so you're talking a full procurement formal process.
So the other next question I have for, I guess, the procurement process for Idaho, is it a request for a proposal, or is it a request for qualifications?
You could run,
Request for qualifications.
you could do proposal or qualifications technically.
Well, they're really kind of one and
They're
the same.
same, but yeah, I'd do an RFQ then. I mean,
And I wanted to visit with Brian a little bit about the QBS, qualified
Yeah,
QBS statute that we have in Idaho.
yeah.
yeah. I
And
mean, that,
allow our
obviously,
council to make
I
that
would
decision.
prefer that in full disclosure, because.
Well, of course you
like
would. We
had
know
just
that.
said,
Yeah.
Because somebody could come lowball this and has no idea.
Yeah, well, and what
What's
I'm,
going
and what
on?
I'm saying is
Change order the
as much as I like
Right.
all you guys, when the counties have to get involved with
Right.
a construction project of this magnitude,
Right.
as much as I like everybody, I'm not going to jail for y'all.
Right.
So,
Right.
That's where I'm at.
yeah,
If we're not protecting the county,
Sure.
then we're done.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's just plain and simple.
Right, no,
That's our
we're not,
responsibilities.
we're not asking to do anything shady or, but, under the table, anything like that. I'm just wanting to understand that process, and I guess I've been down this road a little bit more than John, and so I think there needs to be some protection of the canal company to make sure that they're in the driver's seat, because they're the ones that have started this, they're moving down.
Well, I'm telling you, they're not in the driver's seat.
No, when we
They-
get,
They're a partner,
Mhm.
but
but
when it comes to driving and the county's responsibility and the money
Yeah.
coming to the county,
Yeah.
that's who's in the driver's seat.
Because
Okay,
this is probably a reimbursement grant, correct?
yes.
So
We
we're
would
going to
have-
be footing a $28 million, not all
No.
at once.
So, yeah.
But even if you do a monthly
Right.
reimbursement, I mean, this
Whoever
is-
submits
So-
the invoices, you are not paid until that money comes back through. It's not, the county wouldn't have to pay whoever, the contractor, whoever, they don't get paid until,
We are not,
You
we are
submit
not
the-
being a,
Yeah.
there's a specific term for it in the grant, where we would actually put the money out and then get the money back.
It's not
Right.
reimbursed.
No, it's not it's not a true
It's-
reimbursement. It's
Yeah.
a,
But we're still accepting the liability.
yes, we are.
That's what I'm saying.
And-
If we're accepting the liability, we gotta,
so, you had talked to Franklin County. So how is Franklin County just able to be a pass-through entity on their project?
Their auditors allowed it,
Okay.
mine won't.
Because Oneida and Caribou County.
And with $28 million,
are
I don't
saying-
blame them. I wouldn't be willing to either.
Yeah, no, because Franklin County is currently doing it, Oneida County, Caribou County.
would be an RFQ.
There's several counties, there's 4 other projects, moving forward, and that's why
Well,
I just was asking the question,
Uh,
are they doing something that they
the
shouldn't be?
smaller
or-
counties sometimes can do things a little bit different than the bigger counties because of the amount of grants, the amount of money,
Okay.
the amount of things that we pass through, and the amount of things that we do.
Yeah,
Reporting stuff, I know with like the ARPA funds and our total grant
Right.
amounts,
right.
it triggers a different level of auditing. And I'll tell you, our auditors, we are much
Yeah.
more, I don't want to say
Accountable.
accountable, but it's going to be
Yeah.
released to the public today. Our office
Right.
was awarded another basically excellence award from the National
Mhm.
Government Accountability because we do this. We make
Right.
sure that no matter what we do, whether it's a small project or a big project, they're ran the same. It's everything is how it's done, because if we
Right.
don't, Bannock County will, the bigger counties in Idaho will usually incur the wrath of the state then.
Yeah,
And so we always make sure that we follow the rules exactly as they're supposed to be done.
And when we talked, I did specifically ask Camille, their clerk, that.
Okay.
And she said, we get, like, I think theirs was like 300,000. Well, that didn't even put them in a single audit.
right,
And so that single audit threshold is what's going to trigger
Yep.
okay.
a lot more attention, and this is definitely going to be a major
that-
program for
that
us,
was-
28 million.
That was, I guess, kind of the comment that I wanted to make. So the Cub River project that Franklin County is doing, they are in the environmental assessment. So that's the first phase, is that 300,000. The next phase would then be design and then final construction. The 25 million wouldn't hit, you're probably 3 years down the road. You gotta, to get through.
But you're still running it as a single project, so we
Right.
still would have to treat it
Right.
as a,
But I guess make that comment so everybody was aware or clear.
Yeah, it won't trigger all of
Yeah,
this.
this first process is really actually getting through the PIFR.
yeah.
The PIFR is what's been requested, and then either the NRCS or they contract a third party to then look at the project, look at the cost, the benefits. Okay, does this meet our criteria? If it does, then they'll say, okay, let's go to the environmental assessment, which is at least a 1.5-year process, then design, and then eventually construction. With the total, like I said, total could be $28 million. I mean, in total, if everything
Yeah.
goes through. Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not opposed to doing things
Yeah.
like this. I think this is a good thing, but this does, and this is always the hard part when people ask us to be granting,
Mm-hmm.
is that it's you have to play by our rule, that we're held to, and that's the problem. A lot of times there's other government agencies or municipalities or other stuff that they have different,
Yeah.
they're not treated the same sometimes. And so that's,
Well, and that's why my question, to
Yeah.
understand, how did Franklin County and other counties work around that or work through that?
yeah, they don't hit, we always have auditors that usually, especially this year with our ARPA funds and everything
ARPA,
else, it's
yeah.
gonna be our auditing office is gonna be really
Yeah.
busy. It's gonna
Yeah.
be really busy. And that's what we just, okay, that's fine. We accept that challenge,
Yeah.
but we just wanna make sure that we don't cause a problem for anybody else to do that.
Sure.
Mike, any concerns, questions?
I don't. I was visiting with council, and I think we just want to look to make sure we have the right language together before we
Yeah,
look for proposals, qualifications, that type of thing.
yeah. I think like I said, it would probably be an RFQ. Because of what kind of work and what's being done here, and there would be that collaboration effort of the city, the canal company. That would be a board, an entity that would help oversee these projects to make sure that the county has the correct subject matter experts on that side of it.
Right.
And then it would be in conjunction with, okay, once that group, I think, would be, Bannock County's the customer, but they're the sub-customer, let's say it, put it that way. Is,
And
you know,
the way NRCS looks at it, is they look at it, there's a sponsor, which would be the county, and then there's co-sponsors, which
Yep.
would be Canal Company, the cities,
Mm,
soil water
Soil and water.
conservation districts. You know, they actually do, that's why they call them a watershed
yep,
environmental assessment, because they want, I mean, you can look up to 250,000 acres. They want a much broader view and look at these issues and not solve just a small, one smaller issue, but look at the broader issue.
well, like I said, I have no problem with a project like this, and you would have all of the players that are involved, all the people that are there that are stakeholders, I mean, those co-sponsors. You're gonna have, again, the city of Downey, you're gonna have, is the city of Aramal affected?
Yes.
They would be.
Is the city of
They could be,
McCammon
yeah.
affected?
Yeah.
We're on a flood, no, McCammon, not
Is-
so much.
But that's what I'm asking, is what other player?
So
you know?
that's why on the map you see what's more of a pink shading area. All of those communities fall within that. Currently, no discussions have happened with those, but when you go to the watershed EA, you basically open it back up to scoping. What are the issues? What are the concerns? You go out for public comment, participation, and then that's when more ideas, more thoughts can come out. And that is one reason that I went a little bit bigger, because I didn't know who else might come to the table and say, we would like to address some of our issues.
Well, and there would be that discussion too. I mean, to go along with that, I mean, you have, I can't tell exactly where your pink shaded area ends, but you're getting real close to.
McCammon's in there.
McCammon's in there. Lava's,
Not-
Lava's getting close
Not
to
quite
it.
all the
Lava's
way over.
clear.
Yeah, Lava's.
Basically,
there's your Fish Creek.
the little jog was to pick
Well,
up
no,
the
Lava would be right
diversion.
here.
Yeah,
The
Lava's
diversion
just outside.
Lava's right there.
structure.
Right, where the port comes down.
The pink should end right at where the old steel bridge was.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, there might be stuff like that,
Right.
hey, if we're starting to look at that, and to tell you the truth, in a lot of these buy-ins and grants is if you have, even if it's just not
Multiple entities.
the
Yeah.
canal company, but you have some of these others that if you can do it all at once,
Yeah.
So where
typically you are more successful in those
Right.
granting opportunities when the more players that you have at the table.
where are you looking to start the piping and end the piping?
Yeah.
We've kind of preliminaried it out about 2 miles south of Sublet Road is where we're thinking the pipe would start. And then it would run clear through to the end of the system in Downey.
Well, how much did we just spend on that bridge?
Oh, there we go, we're on that bridge again.
We spent.
Well, wait a minute now, see, you did the Arkansas Bridge.
That's what I'm
but
talking
the
about.
Sublet Bridge it's got a hole in it about that big around right now. Just saying.
No, just don't drive in that spot. You'll be
They put a steel patch over it, we're okay.
Is this gonna be a lot like the piping that goes into Twin Lakes, across through there?
No.
It's sort of above ground?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Twin Lakes above, no, this
No.
would be buried in.
What is this,
We're looking at
what
probably
material you're gonna use?
HDPE is
HDPE,
most likely
okay.
what it would be.
For the
But-
size we're gonna have to have.
what are you gonna have, 24-inch? 36 inch?
No,
No.
we were up to, it was 60 plus.
60 inch,
I
wow.
can't remember.
That's
It's
Canal.
been long enough since I've looked at the.
So Chad,
pipe
you reported
size.
last year 96 inch. Down at that would probably be the biggest.
You're gonna have some big safety grates over all these spots, right? Because I don't really want to have to tell some people their kids got sucked into them.
It will be designed right.
Okay.
It would have, it would
Thank you.
have a trash rack and pumps at the top end, so it's one way in.
You know what's funny is kids can get in the darndest
do,
places.
they do.
So let's make sure they
They
don't.
do.
I really don't want to have that conversation. ever.
Back to the comment about the watershed. So, you go through, you got $25 million of projects, but through scoping, you've identified more needs than that. Once the project's finished, you can go back and do what they refer to as a supplemental.
Mhm.
You can go back, say, okay, we've looked at the entire watershed, we've kind of done the heavy lifting. We now want to look at these other projects. You do have to clear them environmentally, but it's a smaller, I'll say a smaller lift, and then go through the process for another 25 million. So there is some reason for looking a little broader, looking a little bigger to make sure that you're addressing all those needs, so.
Christie, concerns, questions? Nancy? You both looked through some of this?
What do we need to do to get started on it? You said you've already submitted, and he's
Yeah.
asking versus asking for
He
funding?
he has made the request. What we would need at this point is some kind of a letter saying that
Okay.
the county would be the primary sponsor of the project.
And then, do we have any documents that tell us what the reporting requirements are? What?
Yeah, I can, let me see. Yeah, no, there is. I'm trying to think what's the easiest spot.
Bruce Sandoval, I
Yeah.
have his email, I've found him on,
Yeah,
just pull him and say, hey, this is what we want to do. We can have our chief of staff say, hey, send us all
Yeah.
documentation, everything
Yeah.
we would need to do that way.
yeah.
And then I think and again, this is,
Well,
There's quarterly reports. We've always
and I think what would need to happen
prepared
though
them
is,
and then send them to the county for review. We can do it however.
I would like
You can do it however.
you guys to send to us what you're expecting. I don't want us to take the lead
no, that's true.
on
That's fine.
this project.
That's good.
I want you guys to send it to us so that we follow everybody's on the same pattern, and instead of you expecting us to do
Well,
something and
What
so,
we're probably gonna have on that granting application is probably gonna have to be the signature that, and we do this with all of our grants, is that formal signature to say, yes, we're allowing that, this is gonna be the point person, or how we're gonna
Right.
do that, is that would need to be prepared and brought back to us for formal vote in, that we will do that. Commissioner Huff is not here, so I'd feel more comfortable having Commissioner Huff here as well, just because we always do things, we don't do anything when somebody else is in DC, so it's not fun.
you send us that stuff, we'll have legal, engineering, and auditing review it. They'll bring it before the board can then okay it. At this point, I think it's a positive thing that we're gonna go in that direction, but I won't say yes until those i's have been dotted and t's have been crossed.
We also need to identify Christie and
Okay.
Chad,
Yeah,
I don't want to digress anything, but could you run through the benefits again? I think it's important.
yeah.
I mean, if we're making this decision, let's show what the benefits are again.
So what we've estimated right now is there'd be about 5,200 acre feet of conserved water. They service, that would basically give everybody an additional foot of water in the project.
Due to evaporation loss and
all
other
Seepage,
seepage, okay.
evaporation, operational loss, just,
Transport.
No, that's good.
yeah. So they service, what, 5,100 acres
Yep.
is what's covered in the project. So, like I said, you would give everybody, that additional water to irrigate. Energy savings from the pumps, you're looking at one central pump station instead of everybody having their own throughout the system. So there are any energy savings from that regard. Flood waters, flood management, like I said, is paid at 100%. That's looking at the cross drains coming under the canal and may even be leaving the canal open in portions, because it makes sense to allow the flood water to come into the canal, convey it to,
Another
natural drainages. You look up and down there, a lot of those old the natural drainages are now being farmed. If the canal is gone, then you're looking at, runoff and erosion to the fields. And so we've talked about key locations. Let it come into the canal, convey it to a larger drainage that still has a path, down to Marsh Creek, under the railroad, under the state highway, under the interstate. So flooding is a huge benefit. We're looking at some of the soil stabilization above the canal. Is it Sublette or Arkansas?
Both, mostly
That-
sublet.
So, there's a lot of sediment runoff, transportation, that's coming into the canal, flooding that
So
you're
you're looking at-
addressing.
You're anticipating a reduction in turbidity and
Yeah.
into the local watershed as well.
That's what I wanted to hear was water quality.
Yeah.
Is water quality specifically mostly in, what is it, total dissolved solids or total suspended solids?
Yeah, there's no doubt that you're gonna have,
Any IOCs or SOCs, VOCs reduction?
I don't know that I can answer that for certain on that. I don't,
Well, I think anytime you can close a system like
Yeah.
that and
Yeah.
stop
Yeah.
outside
Right,
inductions.
right.
It's gonna pick up, yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna save.
So there's benefits from the water quality, that side. You really don't have anybody flood irrigating right now, so your return flows, you're not gonna be
Well,
moving or transporting the,
you're not gonna have sedimentation load that's gonna increase the
right,
move.
your nitrates and phosphorus, those things are gonna stay,
Yep.
should stay more on the fields, in the system. So those are, I haven't quantified or really looked at that into more detail. That's kind of the next step, I guess, but,
Right now,
Those are
we're at
big.
21-mile catch-all.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Right.
Anything that's coming off the
Mhm.
East Hills, hits that canal and heads to Downey,
Right.
right now.
Yeah.
So anything we do going forward is gonna be
Yeah, the-
incredible. I mean, my joke is, if somebody throws it in the Port Neuf River in lava, I pull
You
it out
clean
in
it up.
Downey. Okay, I'm not even gonna give you a list of what I pulled out. It'll blow your mind.
Thank you.
It's insane. So,
Yeah.
things like that. I mean, there's all kinds of benefits from
I'm
this.
good. I'm good with that, and let's just.
Get any fire and ice riders? They were just
You
in
know-
last week.
Commissioner, that's
Probably clothing and.
plenty of clothing. That's been my one statement to
Well,
everybody.
rubber duckies and rafts.
Been doing it for 11 years, okay?
Mhm.
Been as manager for 11 years, and I've told them numerous times, when I put my fork in that water to pull weeds or whatever the case may be, and a hand comes up,
I'm done.
I just walk away. I'm done. I will never fish a body up.
No. Well, but that's the other thing too, of
Well, we
having
got
it
a corner.
closed is the safety, you have a safety factor too that goes into play.
Oh,
Um,
a huge
I
safety
mean-
factor. I mean,
There's-
we had the lady and her dog with Blackfoot
Mm-hmm,
8-9 years ago
mm-hmm.
when they had a drowning problem. with
Yeah,
a
they
pump.
electrocuted them.
Electrocuted her dog, and the neighbor who tried to save them both.
Yep.
I mean, so the central pump station will eliminate that, and being in a pipe will eliminate it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, there's lots of benefits if you break it way, way down.
Those are the higher level that we've looked at and identified.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If you can get us any of the grant documents so that we know what
Okay.
reporting's gonna be like, what kind of documents we've gotta submit, how we're gonna have to do things, just so that we can make sure we're in compliance, then
Well, then,
that'll help us.
that'll give us
on our
too
side.
the ability to look at it to see if we need to look at like somebody like CCOG to help on some of that stuff.
Right, or if we'll be able to do it.
Or if we'll be able to do it. I
Right.
mean, to tell you the truth, if we can do it to where we don't add logs to the fire for us, and if we have to have
Yeah.
somebody like CCOG, I'd rather,
Yeah.
not do that. But if we do have the ability then to do that, by all means, if your office feels inclined to do it. So,
Perfect.
cool. I'm good.
Anybody else questions, concerns?
It's good with me.
As long as we can keep moving forward.
Yep.
Okay. Quicker do we get the information from you, the
Yeah,
quicker we'll
get it.
move
Get it
forward.
right up.
can do.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I move to adjourn.
With that being said, we are adjourned.